So when I was getting ready to do this, I realized that I hadn't actually written anything in like 6 or 7 months. And my life goes at a very fast pace, so that seemed weird to read things from 6 or 7 months ago. So I wrote something at 2 a.m. last night. Do with it what you will. So I'm jerking off before an 11 a.m. hookup to a bisexual gangbang. All the porn I've watched this week has been a loop of the same oversized cock going into the same well-manicured hole, always with the facial comp shots. You can tell that these porn words have been working a full schedule, the anemic semen being desperately squeezed into that girl's cheek. It's sweet the way that she spreads it around before licking her fingers clean. Then I get on my bike and ride to this guy's house. He's hot, but it's kind of awkward. We've determined that we know each other from HIV counseling training, but I don't remember his name. I wait outside his door smoking a cigarette and chewing gum at the same time, and he answers wearing tiny red shorts and a yellow shirt cut off at the sleeves. Inside, my layers upon layers of clothing seem not a tribute to the weather, but rather a symbol of an inner prudishness. I wait while he calls his mother in Spanish, sitting on the floor talking at his wheezing pug until he hangs up. The move to join him on the couch and start to spit out small talk, but then his tongue is in my mouth. We make out pushing against each other, and then I fall over him. His clothes evaporate, but mine is still very much on while I am sucking his certainly hard dick into shape. Hookups are so irritatingly respectful. They only make vague movements on my belt buckle, but that's it. I much prefer my paying tricks, who expect me to be ass up, butt naked with intent. I say, do you want me to take my binder off or keep it on? And they reply, whatever makes you comfortable. It's like I'm making love to a social worker when I want to be ripped to death by a butcher. I told him that I'm a bottom, but then I'm on top of him, my palm fitting against his neck, my tongue rolling up his armpit. I rub my dick against his and feel the thrill of him almost slipping in. I remember our counseling role plays. We were both supposed to create characters for the other to practice harm reduction on. He was a gay man in a relationship who sometimes fooled around, used poppers every time he fucked a stranger, and the rush would make him want to slide his dick in bare, just for a minute. Now, emerging from underneath my body, he takes the poppers out of a drawer and holds it under his own nostril before passing the bottle on to me. He takes out a condom and rolls it over his thick, uncircumcised cock, and I'm kind of disappointed. Am I not enough of a stranger? I wanted to fuck me raw just for a while, away from the CDC guidelines and our trainers listening for open-ended questions, but in my head it sounds unconsciously depraved. His dick goes soft after banging into me for a while. My cunt has become used to being fucked by a lot more than the manhunt version of 7 inches. And you could stick it in my ass, but no one really seems that interested in doing so. I guess the novelty of fucking someone with a vagina makes people want to use it. I go to shower and we make small talk as a way of closing things up because neither of us came. He says, well, that was interesting. That is true. And I reply, have you ever hooked up with a trans guy before? No, never. Well, don't I feel special then? In my dream, I'm on Jeopardy. The other 2 contestants are my friends, one who had died of AIDS complications and the other is HIV positive and doesn't want to take any retrovirals. The host is the CEO of AIDS Healthcare Foundation and the 2 of us are in cahoots. The categories are all rigged to be obscure obsessions of mine. Tigers, the history of gymnastics up to 1996, parasites, Mariah Carey. Every time I get an answer right, Michael Weinstein shoves a handful of Trypanovir and Sestiva into one of my friends' mouths, and then massages their throat to push it down like you do with puppies. At first they fight back against him, spinning and cursing, but then they become resigned and passively swallow the pills. I'm standing in between them, but they never look at me, like there's a one-way mirror separating us. I feel disgusting. I want this crazed man with his toupee sliding down over one ear to get the fuck out of their faces, but I keep answering the questions. There's this threat in my mind that if I stop, I'll lose them. They'll disappear and I'll be left alone in this game show hell. But the pills seem to be making them sicker, and I don't know what happens when all the categories are finished. I remember reading this article in Rolling Stone magazine as a teenager about bug chasers. My recollection is of reading it on the couch at my high school's library, but the internet says it came out in 2003, when I was 18 and had long since been expelled. However, I do know how I felt reading it. Flushed and angry and excited. I knew the article was bullshit. Not that some people would desire being infected with HIV, but the way they were written as mindless homo zombies, dumpsters for cum, making up 20% of the new infections, a waste of taxpayers' money. I would have barely known what HIV or AIDS was in high school. Our sex education teacher had just had a mastectomy after a bout with breast cancer, and it was all that she would talk about. But the tone that the article took towards the gay men interviewees made me feel the same as how the world looked at me, a destined conduit of venereal disease. I was a compulsive slut and a boastful one, like someone who'd given me the wrong manual on how to participate in sexual relations in high school. Instead of being a good girl, only submitting to a fumbling finger banging in exchange for romance, I was bad. Brimming over with lust, telling my 9th grade classmates that I'd already slept with 12 men when I'd only managed to bed 2. I was also poor and my clothes smelled like mothballs. Too weird to be attractively tragic. I desperately wanted to be friends with the men in that article, not because of their barebacking tendencies. I didn't use condoms either, but it didn't come with the thrill of taboo breaking. But to me, living in small-town New Mexico, something about the story felt comforting. My friend turns towards me, smirking. He's being deliberately provocative, which is dangerous. This feels really dangerous. We're interviewing each other on a tape deck which plays him back as a valley girl and me as a distraught chipmunk. So, he says, when you're getting plowed without condoms, is HIV on your mind? I feel hot and flushed, and it's not just the pressure of being recorded, but of talking about me and AIDS instead of the government and AIDS, or queer trauma and AIDS, or racism and AIDS, etc., etc. And fuck, let's talk about these things as well, because I miss act up like my birth mother who I never knew, dreaming about what could have happened if we shared the world at the same time. HIV and AIDS are such carefully managed topics in San Francisco though, and I want something vulnerable, messy, and real. Not to be shamed by my friends who had condoms thrown at them at a queer festival when one was giving the other a BJ. That is unhealthy as any possible transmission of gonorrhea or syphilis that could have plausibly happened in such an interaction. We are all scrambling to create distance between ourselves and any concept of infectivity, which is not to say that safer sex isn't important and hot and awesome, but that it needs to be a choice of both HIV positive and negative people. That people should not be afraid to talk about who they are and what they do, because that's how lies are told and all the work that's being done gets erased. I'm telling you this because I'm scared of being alone. And yes, I'm scared of me and my friends getting sick, but I'm also scared of people disappearing. Not feeling capable of talking about their desires and their needs and their bodies, and then one day